how do you score a goal? I mean, you score a goal from a defending mistake a lot of the time. And why do mistakes happen? Usually through lack of focus and mindset and not being in the right position. The way that I feel like these young kids are approached, they're just looked at like a number.
Imposter syndrome.
Sure, yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
Sure.
Is that a common thing?
Oh man, like, it's the most common. Like,
Really?
absolutely most common, yeah. It's like people are their own worst enemy. Right then, so welcome in to the Game Within the Game podcast. So this is a new thing that I'm launching. I'm wanting to look into getting into the mentality of sport, the mentality of football, talk about my journey a little bit, get coaches in, get players in, see what we can do, see what we can bring up and bring to life. For me, being passionate, being driven and having good mentality is a massive thing within my coaching. So I just thought, why not? Like to get people on. Let's talk to them about, their journeys, what they've gone through, how they've got to where they're at, and back some ideas. And I think it'd just be a good way of getting my personality out there a little bit more, and also obviously getting in the minds of good people. So yeah, that's the idea behind it, and hopefully we can today get you a little bit of insight into myself and obviously what the channel is going to be about eventually.
Yeah, well, I'm going to help with that because I'm going to be your interviewer for the day to see what we can find out about you. So we'll start off simple and easy. So why did you start this in general?
Yeah, so for me, obviously, like I've just said there, a massive part of my journey has been my mentality and being around what I'm driven to do. And for me, sport and football, obviously coaching especially, is just a massive part of my life. And it got me out of a lot of trouble. I like to think that my storyline has been quite one what's challenged me all the time, and for me that's brought out the best in me, and I'm just glad that I picked a good pathway. And for me, the last 10 years, obviously I've been coaching 10 years now since I was 16, 17 years old, really starting it. Mentality and just being driven all the time and being able to get myself out of a rut has been such an important part of staying on the straight and narrow and being able to produce the best version of myself, really. So yeah, that's what I wanted to obviously come on here and get and bring to life a little bit more, really. So that was the main reason.
Well, that makes me think of the next question is if you didn't have football to do this, what else would you have been doing?
Probably don't know, actually.
Being a different sport?
Being a pickle.
Rugby?
Yeah, I'd probably, I don't know. Obviously, coaching anything really, because it's not just been football where I feel like I've been a coach. I think I've been quite a good life coach for people. And that's something what I found, obviously, even before football. Football is just like more of a, I suppose, like the passion and more because I liked football, that was where I sort of fell into. But for me, it was more changing lives, making people happier. At the time when I first started this, I always was like, right, I get a massive buzz off creating an atmosphere for people, which is really enjoyable. They can come off with a smile on their face. They know they've come down and put a good graft in, and hopefully gone away a better person. And for me, doing that in every hour I give is just, it's the best feeling. And for me, that's obviously what the driving force was. So it probably wasn't actually football what got me into it. It was more, that feeling.
The leadership role.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that brings me on to the next one then, because if obviously coaching, there's lots of different forms of coaching. You could have gone for football, an actual football club, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, somewhere around one of the local teams. What made you want to start your own one versus going into an established place and learning your craft?
For sure, actually.
That way.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because obviously a lot of people do ask that as well, to be fair. I actually did start my journey off at Sheffield United. I worked in the community foundation, so my first ever probably job in coaching was working within the schools. Really enjoyed it. I can't lie, really did like it. Obviously, it was nice to wear the branding. I think that was it. Yeah. That's a nice little touch, isn't it? When you free kit on, of course, yeah. But doing all that sort of stuff is it was fun, and again, it was a really good starting baseline to sort of get me out there and put yourself in the deep end. You're going to different schools every time, and actually did a little bit in the academy. It wasn't a long time, I'll be honest. It was more a voluntary position. Working within the foundation phase, and for me, like I said, I don't want to throw shade on an academy system, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. And obviously, main reason was because I think you are quite, you kind of got to work for someone else so much, and I think this leads me on quite nicely to where I'm at now. Is when you're working for someone else or you're sort of doing their sessions and your structure has to be about that. I didn't feel like I could have the influence I thought I could. And obviously, I mean, at the time anyway, I was only volunteering, so I was literally like a second in line coach. I was actually stood next to someone else watching them lead.
Yeah.
But admittedly, I was young. Obviously, I didn't really have the experience. So, yeah, I didn't really fall into that with the intention of wanting to do it. It was kind of just like, right, I saw it. I did it. I did like the way some things were done, and I learned from that. But then, yeah, eventually I just thought, well, I'm going to go to uni. I did it at university after I had them experiences. And I built up, obviously doing a lot of stuff down at the Goals in Sheffield. So that was kind of where I really started to push my lead coaching, I suppose.
Right.
Because I met a guy called Lee Bromby, and he was an ex-footballer at Sheffield Wednesday. He's been at other clubs as well. And my first ever coaching sort of privately was done within his company at Premier Coaches. So to be fair, I've got a lot of him to thank, because that's where I started it.
Yeah.
And that kind of started the journey off, I suppose. So
Wow.
that was where it went.
So
from.
out of all that time you've spent at Sheffield United and the academy as well, like what things have you brought from there that you learned then that you didn't know at the time that you brought now into RH private coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I've brought on is the personal touch. The one where I keep, like I said right at the start of this, it's like, for me, it wasn't about football. It's more about just bringing out good people. And even now, like every person who comes to our sessions, I always said to them, the priority is for them to leave a better person. Yeah. I'm not bothered about how that happens. I couldn't care if it's about, to be honest, it's nothing to do with technical ability. It's more to do, for me, it's just building a good, solid person, because I always said to people, and just in general, people know this, that football is probably the hardest sport to be a professional in, because there's so much competition, there's so much ability out there, and 1% of my students and players are probably going to make it. And for me, that's why it can't just be about football, because it's not going to always happen for people like that, do you see? So
you can still get something out of it,
exactly,
even if they don't go professional with it.
Without a doubt. And that's what I mean. If they can learn the skill set to not just be good with just the feet, and I can actually build them mentally as well, and actually make them stronger and more resilient, and being able to go out in that big wide world and just be a better person. Just keep saying, it's very generic, just to be a better person. Like I just want it. That's all I want from people. Yeah. So yeah, it's a massive. That is the driving force for me, and that's again why I keep coming back onto this, and this is why I want to do this, is to get that out there a little bit more, because unless you've seen me in the flesh and I suppose being coached by me, you're not going to know that.
No, yeah.
Or be my friend.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah. I don't know anyone like that either. But, so we've kind of got an idea now of how you started it. Mm-hmm. What were the first? So obviously you got set up. Talk us through it. So how did you get started? Did you find a place first? Did you know where you were going to start the training? Did you just do it informally and then build it into a business? Like, what was actually the first stages?
Yeah. So obviously I'll go back to like sort of where I was then with Premier Coaching. So I started there. I actually worked at Goals first. That was like my first job, and I was delivering like kids' parties as I was really young. So that was like my first sort of, I suppose, step into coaching. And then I went into the lead position with Lee. So Lee approached me down at Goals and said, look, he's looking for some extra coaches for their extra sessions. So anyway, I went to do that first of all. Loved it, kept doing it for months and months on end, and then got approached to say, right, do you want to come and lead some camps? Yeah. So I actually then took a lead position, as in, I say lead coach, I was like kind of head of the camps then. At that point, and I was leading, I suppose, like 4 or 5 different coaches, delegating them to pitches, and that was like a real good passion of mine. Then I thought, right, I love being. I know it sounds really obnoxious, but I loved being like above,
like the leader.
Yeah, because it was like I could just see something happen. I was like, mate, this is so good, and like all my coaches buzzing, because I always have a big thing, like even now with my staff, that they're all part of this with me. I'm not above them. But at the same time, obviously, there's got to be a lead position. I get that.
It's a hierarchy.
Exactly, yeah. But I always want them to feel like they've got their own say.
Yeah.
And for me, that's something I've definitely learned from the experiences that I've had probably just after that, and I suppose in them years before I've gone to my own business, because, just like I said to you before, everything that I build on is just treating people with respect, building a good person. I didn't feel like I probably had that when I was going through my years.
Yeah,
I felt like I got spoke to a little bit wrong, not really appreciated for the time and effort that I'm putting in.
Yeah.
And it knocks you a little bit, but then it actually taught me some of the biggest lessons that obviously I'm not going to go and teach people. Approach people in that way.
Yeah.
I want to approach people in a better way, and that's what I feel like has brought me good things.
Is that when? So did you when you were leaving Goals and you were getting ready to, let's say, actually start RH private coaching or whatever it was like form was before you properly
right,
professionalized it. Like, how did you get your first client base then? Was it people you'd met at the academy?
Yeah. So, well, actually, it's a funny story. So, I'll skip through to like sort of where I was at then a couple of years ago. And I was working I worked for a different company, and it wasn't something I particularly wanted to do. It was different industry to me. But I just give it a go. I wasn't too happy with the sort of coaching position I was in before, so I left that position, and I went to work in a different industry. It was actually in the gym industry. Had a little go at it. It gave me a little bit more settlement. I was on more of a sort of full-time contract wage, which at the time was the right decision to do. But essentially, then I wanted to come out of that, and I wanted to build my own thing, but I just didn't have the bottle to do it.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, a good friend of mine, he'll know who he is, actually give me the start to do it, and he actually just said, I'm going to not my swearing. He said, "Fuck it, just do it. What's to lose?" You know, and for me, I thought, when I sat on it, I probably sat on it for a night, and I was in bits. I was just like, I don't want to do this no more. You know, I've lost my love for it and all that. And he just went, "Fuck it, what's to lose? You know, I'll help you out. I'll sort you out for you." And that was it. From that moment, the next day, I said to my boss, I was like, "Look, I'm gonna hand my notice in. Thank you very much, and I'm gonna give."
So you didn't have it all in place before you had it.
Nothing.
You just went straight,
Absolutely
swan dive straight into it.
Nothing. Just had the idea, and obviously at the time, even private coaching wasn't probably a massive thing. It's kind of a new thing now. What's coming? Obviously, it's not. It wasn't an established industry, but at the time, I was I was a bit lucky enough to probably not have the overheads that I've got now.
Yeah.
Just my mate pushed me on, and I'm so glad that he did that. And at the same time, I just said, right, I've got this. I bought, I think it was £100 worth of equipment at the time.
Yeah.
I had a field and a bag of footballs.
I was going to say, so you're now sat there. You've now quit your job. You're technically unemployed. You're destitute.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the next thing then? So you go out, you buy your equipment.
Yeah.
£100. Basically, what's that?
It, yeah.
Balls, cones,
Yeah.
that stuff. You find a field? Do you go and speak to someone to get a property, or do you literally just go out, right?
Yeah,
go find these people,
I started off on the field, and then my dad actually helped me out a little bit more. He gave me a little bit more money and said, "Look, I see it's doing well, and I'll get you started a little bit more now."
Good.
And then I've got Sock Centre to thank as well. They're in Darnell, great venue. They helped me out quite a bit when I was first starting, and my first actual sort of facility sessions, I suppose, was up there, because I was just using community pitches, council fields, literally just that. It was funny because when you look back at it, and I've still got the photos now. I'm just literally in my old academy, all the gear what I was in before, and
signed P kit.
Yeah, literally boots what was just scraggy. But it's good just to look back at that and appreciate it, of course. But yeah, so from then on, it went on, and obviously, eventually built it into getting some AstroTurf pitches in. Yeah. Like I say, at Darnell, Sock Centre, they've been a really big help in just getting me off the ground. And as it went on from there, I started building in. And then, obviously, from that moment on, when I kind of went on my own, probably a week after, I got Aaron on board, which is he's a massive part of the journey, because he's literally been with me from day one.
How did that happen then?
Again, funny story, actually. So in my previous job, when I was working in the gym, we was actually running these summer camps. And Aaron approached me on Facebook and just said, "Oh, I'm hating my job." He was working at Asda, stacking shelves. Right. So I was like, and I knew Aaron through college and university. So obviously, when I did my college course, he was on that. And not spoke to him in years, obviously, since that moment. He messaged me just saying, "Oh, have you got any hours on the camps?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Funnily enough, Aaron," I said, "I've left." I went, "I've gone now." I know you might think I'm being stupid, but I've just started a business up. And I said, "I'd love you to come with me on board." Yeah. And he just said to me, "It was like, let's do it." And it was very similar to how my mate said to me, just start it up. And
very similar to how I got sat here in this
exactly,
chair.
Yeah, for sure.
Funny how things happen,
for sure, yeah. And it's such a weird thing, because like I say, back then you just don't think of it as anything, but then you look where I'm at now, it's Jesus Christ, come so far. Aaron has literally been, I talk about him so highly because he's a godsend. He runs my one-to-one program now. He's an absolutely fantastic coach, great person, stuck by with me from day one. He's not one of them who just, dosses work off, not bothered. He wants to actually come in. He wants to make a change. And
mindset that you were saying earlier.
Oh man, massive, yeah. He literally wants it more than anything. And that's another thing. It's not just he's coming up and turn up for a wage packet. Yeah. He has got such an influence, and I know it says RH private coaching above it, but it's not just mine. It's me and Aaron's. I always say that, and I say it to him from day one, and he gets looked after because of that. Because if it weren't for him, it would be nowhere, where it is now. Definitely not. So
I think that mindset's contagious then, like especially with like kids and stuff like that
yeah,
when you're training with them.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I really would, because I think, especially some of the journeys. I mean, obviously we released the video, didn't we, not long ago? What you kind people did for me, and that obviously it put in 2 stories there, which I think are massive, with Jack and Neve. Them 2 have been with me for over 4 or 5 years. And that was probably longer than even when I started this, because they were actually, when I was at previous jobs, they was following me along as well.
Right, and so is that when you're back at the academy and
No, that was when I was still in the gym. I was kind of doing it on the side, yeah. So that was like, I met Jack actually when I was in the job before the gym. So Jack's been with me sort of through 3 different phases of my life, which is, like I say, it's not because obviously at the time I would like to say probably weren't the coach I am now as well.
And like, grown.
And we've grown together. And like he come in, he actually came in a group of 3 as well, which I actually really like, because it's like the other 2, not to discredit the other 2 lads who were there, but the bond I had with Jack was a lot stronger.
Yeah.
And then we just grew from there, and then we ended up doing sessions on his own and so on. And yeah, it's like, obviously Jack's journey with me has been great. I followed him through, his growth at the academy, his season last season at Scarborough, getting in the National League, and obviously hopefully, fingers crossed, very soon he gets into League 2, League 1. That's kind of the next sort of push, is to get him out in the big open world of professional football. But yeah, just like you say there, the contagiousness, yeah, I'd absolutely say so, because I bond with people on that way as well. And Jack is one of them. He's such a, going back to obviously what we want this podcast to be about, is his mindset. And Jack has literally got one of the best mindsets I've ever met in a young kid. Through COVID, when everyone was sat inside doing nothing, that guy's out on, Rainbow Forge Field, just going out on the cones and doing his own thing every day. And it was just like stuff like that. I just looked at and I was like, mate, that is proper good. But the way he was and the way I am was so similar. And I could use what he was like in his passionate ways to go, okay, well, I need my coaching.
Like bouncing off.
Yeah, it's like when people aren't there, when people aren't working, like COVID, I didn't just sit there and do nothing. I was planning my next move. And it's like, that's what I wanted people around me to be like. So, and I still like that now, obviously, and that's what makes me grow. So, yeah, I'd definitely say it's contagious. I like.
Well, it's contagious. How do you get that mindset then into? Because you teach all ages. You teach people from what, like 8, 7, 6, upwards all the way until adults and whatnot. It's like with Jack, for example. So, like, what's the difference then if you're trying to get someone who's a bunch of 10-year-olds, so you've got 20 of them all running around screaming and whatnot? How do you get that mindset? Or how do you identify that mindset in them versus, let's say, you've got 3 new people coming, they're all 18, 19, 20, they're all actually trying to learn. What are the differences then between a kid? Because I can imagine obviously both motivations there for both of them, but how that's like applied or.
Of course, yeah, the structure's so different. I mean, like say from when I was really starting my journey, a lot of the time I was dealing with younger kids, because obviously the camps were more just like a fun based. You come in, drop your kid off, kind of cheap childcare, and with football involved with it. But yeah, back then I think that taught me my roots on how to sort of deal with behaviour. I think behaviour management's a massive thing. Right. That then obviously you can infuse a little bit more passion and, like say, that mentality side of like how to behave and why. Like I have a massive thing on like if you can focus and you can really apply yourself, you'll get your best out yourself. So that for me is a big part of any session, whether I do a group session, a 1-to-1, anything like that. Because even at like, funnily enough, this week I've had like 6, 7-year-olds in. And for me, like, don't get me wrong, that's not my most enjoyable session, because I love being around the pros and stuff. But like, it's great just to see like a really, boisterous, kind of like energized little 6-year-old come in, and you're like, oh my god, I'm going to control this.
Yeah, like instilling discipline.
Mate, I'm like saying to Aaron, I'm like, oh mate, this is going to be hard, this one. But like, they come in and you're like, don't get me wrong, obviously the session style is super basic, but the difference you can get out of them in like a few hours, it's just so nice to see. Like a little story of like one lad we've had in actually recently. He's come in, he was, don't get me wrong, he was tough to sort of like keep control of him, because he was so like, he was just buzzing about everything. But like actually making him listen, then he's obviously looking everywhere. And I always said to people, like, don't look at the ceiling. I see you looking up the ceiling, you're not listening. I'm like, look in my eyes. And now I can actually talk to him, and he spends at least 30 seconds staring in my face. And I just think that is a big difference. Again, that's nothing to do with footy.
No.
It's just to do with like being able to sort of like build in a bit of a a characteristic within these kids before they even start learning.
Yeah.
Because that is so important. I can't teach someone who's not listening to me.
No, exactly. Even if they're motivated.
Exactly, yeah. They
It's
come in,
like, yeah.
like say, he's not coming in and he's trying to be a bad kid.
No.
He's coming in because he's that giddy.
Yeah.
And he's like all over the place. He's bouncing off the walls. So just getting a bit of focus and then letting him be giddy within his play, he's just a massive. It's such a good way of like being able to put all that energy into one place, and then they develop that way as well, and they can still get the fun out of that. You know what I mean?
Still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because like you say, you've got the motivation then on one side, but and like I say, motivation isn't enough because then you need the discipline on the other side.
Yeah,
to like it's almost like a clutch. That's what gets the kind of traction going. So
for
for you, what are your techniques for discipline then? Like how did you develop it? Were you already like a very disciplined kid growing up, or was it something you learned along the way?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to say I was, because I mean, back in the day, obviously, when I always like to go back to where I started. Like, you know, I had a bit of issues at home, like sort of when I was 17, 18, nothing too drastic, but a lot of things what could have shaped me into a different way. A lot of influences, obviously, like say you experience, you know, alcohol. You know, there's people using drugs and things like that, and just people around you in general who maybe not the best influence. I did when I started coaching, obviously, like in college, that's where I sort of experienced it for the first time, like doing my college course and doing some voluntary work. Because I loved it so much, I was even as stupid to say, like, I'm not having anyone in my car who's got something silly. Because I was so like, I don't want to, you know, not be able to get a DBS or all like that. I was like, mate, I don't know what it was. It just like 16, 17, that was just a different version of me.
So it like clicked at a
Oh
certain
man,
time.
yeah, like so early. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had like times where I've probably lost myself a little bit.
Yeah.
But I've always been like, right, what am I here for, and what do I think I'm put here for? You know, I'm quite deep about this, but like for me, it was I was put on here to do a job, and that's to help people as well.
Well, that's about mindset, isn't it? It's like everyone's got that in some
Yeah.
reason. That's one of the core ways that you do it. So that's strange. So it kind of like clicked as you were basically getting older, as you were like coming of age. Like there was is there anything that like you can think of from a mindset perspective that triggered that, or like influenced it specifically, or do you think it was literally just growing up?
Yeah, I think it was the growing up the journey. Like, so when I was 17, I had quite a big incident happen, and it's all solved now anyway. It's all sorted, but it just had a massive impact on my life. And you know, I look back at it, and at the start when I was first probably looking at it, it was probably not the best situation to be involved in. Of course, it wasn't, but it helped me shape myself so early.
Yeah.
You know, and again, what I tend to do from that, and I always say this is, I've always got two sort of experiences for me. It's like I've got my person, Ryan, which is me now, like, and I'm kind of good at now being able to talk about that. Yeah. And then I've got my coaching version of myself. And when I was 17, 18, I couldn't get on with this version, the version of Ryan which wasn't his own self. Like, because when I was looking, sounds pretty sad, I don't want to get emotional, but like when I was you know, growing up, you know, I didn't like that version of me. Yeah. But I loved the version of my coaching self. So you know, when I stepped on the pitch and the session started,
like a new person then,
mate, it was just the best feeling ever. Like, and just to see, like, if I was coaching you, for example, like seeing you happy, seeing you just buzzing, seeing you learn something, it was just like, mate, this is what I love.
Raw emotion of it as well, because it's unfiltered then on a pitch.
It's so unfiltered, and funnily enough, I always remember a story. I'm going to tell you this because this one I think probably was pivotal, and actually what you say actually makes sense for. There was a guy, I always remember his name, called Adam, and so when I was starting at 17. Keith Ward, a great guy. He actually ran the it was the disability section within the community foundation. Right. He did disability stuff. It was like he did a lot of work with Western Park Hospital. We put sessions on for them through the community foundation, and I actually helped Keith out. And Keith spoke to me, and said, "Look, we've got some voluntary work where you can go and work with people who suffer with mental health issues and stuff like that." And also disabilities and things like that. And I thought, you know what, this is great. My best mate is physically disabled. Yeah. He's like my childhood best mate. I thought this is perfect. Like I love being around him. Yeah. Probably one of the best kids. And listen, I'll shout Danny Ryan out because he's one of the biggest influences ever to me. And I'll touch on him as well. But yeah, so Keith obviously said to me, "Do you want to come on board and give that a go?" So I did. And one of the first sessions we did it up at Crooks. It was on the AstroTurf up at Crooks. And a few sessions, I can't remember exactly which one it was. But Adam, he was from the Western Park Hospital, bless him. He's probably like 40, 50-year-old guy, right? Proper, genuine kid. He was always the nicest guy ever. He came early every time, watched you set up, spoke to you while you were setting up. and then he'd wait at the end and speak to you again, and then get on his bike and he'd ride
It's
home.
a mentality thing.
Oh man, yeah, like it was just nice to see him come early all the time and then leave late. He always wanted to spend extra time with you. And obviously at the time I was so young, like growing up, just not really thinking much of it. And then one time he came through and it was just like the nicest thing he ever said to us. He just comes by and he's like, he just came and just went, Ryan, he went, I really love these sessions,
Oh.
And I was like, nearly tearing up on it. I was like, Jesus Christ, why have you said that? I'm like trying to set up, mate. I was like, you're gonna send me going. And like that proper stuck with me that moment. Like just hearing someone who's probably gone through a proper lot in his life, I'm a little kid, a young kid, 17, 18.
Less than half his age, like.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm lead coaching as well. That I was like leading that session, and just to hear someone say that and have that impact on someone, just to want to turn up every single Wednesday just to come and do that session, and it meant that much to him. It was like that for me was a massive spark into I love this, because I proper love that impact I had on him, and bless his little soul, Adam. He's really helped me push forward. I feel like because I always remember these things. I just think they're the ones what are just them impact ones, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the story, especially when you talk about mindset and things like that, it's like you're getting examples from kids being 10, 11, 12, just finding that discipline, finding an avenue that they can actually kind of express it with, versus like 50, 60-year-olds who've seen a lot, they've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe lots of stuff's happened and they've still got, they're both completely different circumstances, but mindset's still at the core of all of them. Discipline, motivation. What other kind of parts of like, how do you say, like, because you say, you're not just teaching football, you're teaching a mindset, you're teaching that philosophy. Like, what kind of philosophy is that then? How would you describe, like, obviously there's discipline and it's like working hard and going at it, but, there's like stoic and pushing through. Is it like more, I mean, you tell me, like, how would you describe it to someone who's never, never worked with you before? Like, what do you think they'd walk away from after a training session with you or a couple of training sessions with you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a great question, by the way. I just really like the idea of like being able to get, it sounds really deep and a bit silly, but like a human being being as focused as possible within that time they're with us. Yeah. So like, I feel like if you go to the game a little bit more now, like football, how do you score a goal? I mean, you score a goal from a defender mistake a lot of the time. And why do mistakes happen? Usually through lack of focus and mindset and not being in the right position and things like that. So a lot of football is basically a mistake. Yes, you've got talent. Yes, you've got skills and things like that. And the skill can create the goal, for example. But a lot of the time, the skill has to have a mistake from a defensive perspective. Yeah. So for me, mentality and building that sort of rapport with a player and saying, right, how, I really want you to start caring about that. Because I look at the best players in the world as well. And I think, well, if I said to, Xavi or Iniesta or a player like that or Busquets, top player, and I give him 50 ground passes, they're probably getting one wrong, if that. Probably 50 out of 50 because they're not, especially in a game which is of importance, because they're so able to like bring that focus straight on and right, nothing's more important than this game right now.
They practiced it for so long, it's automatic to them.
They're not floating around, they're not like, oh God, being too emotional about things. That's another big thing I try and coach is taking your emotions out a little bit more as opposed. Listen, I'm emotional. I'm not trying to say don't be emotionless.
It's a bit of stoicism kind of thing.
But like just not having the emotions control you. Because that is probably the biggest thing, and I'll lead on to kids after this, is and what I see most. But yeah, just building like a really strong, I suppose, shell and being able to like let things in, emotion, be emotional, but don't let it like determine how focused you are. Like, because you see it all the time, don't you? They make a mistake, flapping everywhere. The next 10 minutes of the game is terrible. They've got a shoulders drop.
They're in their own head.
Everything is just about that. And if you can get someone to stay on the game, and I always remember a quote, actually, funnily enough, what Pep said, Guardiola, obviously a great manager, and he was talking about Foden. I think he was just doing an interview, and he says, you don't know if Foden scored a screamer, or he's missed a tap-in. Because he's just mentality is exactly the same. Yeah. He'll forget about it next minute and he's back onto what he needs to be doing. And for me, it's probably a slightly robotic, I suppose, approach, but at the same
stoic more than robotic.
At the same time, I don't ever take the emotion out of it. I want them to be proud of doing that as well. So
feel it.
Yeah. So when they're doing something well, be proud of that. Yeah. When something goes wrong, also feel it. But react on it in a better way. Yeah. So that's a big.
Yeah. Respond, don't react, kind of like thing.
Have a way out. I always have a thing now where I don't have negative in my little dictionary. It's either positive or what can we do about it.
Yeah. How can it be?
And that's how I want it to be. And I want it to be, right, okay, they've made a mistake. Well, great, let's react on it. So the same in a session. I always said to these kids, like, why are you coming here trying to perfect everything? I actually said to them, I go, well, what's the point in coming if you do everything right?
Yeah.
You might as well go home and just sit at home and wait for your game. Yeah. But it doesn't happen. And I said, it's impossible because we're human beings. And I said, so when you do make a mistake, let's have a good reaction to that. Yeah. Let's have a reaction where we can, change it. So that's the be all and end all of sort of where I'm at, I suppose, with the mentality side of things.
I'm thinking so imagine from the perspective, because obviously you're doing RH private coaching, you've got all these kids, you're working with independent adults and stuff like that, but imagine yourself from the perspective of a parent.
Yep.
What advice would you give that parent stood at the touchlines watching their kid play to kind of instill this discipline? Because obviously you're only with that kid, an hour a week, maybe a couple of hours a week. What should they be doing? What would you recommend they do? Both.
Don't be so involved with them.
Yeah.
I think the parents are too involved sometimes.
Is that all ages, do you think?
I think a lot of ages, yeah. I see it on a sideline so much. You hear it, the abuse that sort of referees get. Think of what their own kids are getting. If they're going to give it the referee, what are they saying to the kid? And I know it sounds pretty harsh to say, but I've had actually sessions before where I feel like I wasn't even coaching. It was more the parent.
That's
and
mad.
It is. It's crazy, but at the same time, it's because and I don't want to sound like I'm being trying to call people out here, but the ego of a parent can be very hindrance to a player.
Yeah, that competition between the parents of who's got the
parents trying to
score and whatever.
Yeah, they're trying to create something which is not even there yet, and it needs development. Yeah. And so when a parent influence gets in, when a parent influences a session or a game so much, they're not actually thinking for themselves. Yeah. And a lot of my going to sort of my coaching a little bit on this point is when I coach a session, I actually say to the player, "You're in charge, not me. Yeah. I'm here to facilitate your session and help you and develop your ability, and I'm going to put my influence in. However, I'm not going to control it." So I actually said to the little kids, and that way I go, "I'm not your remote control like you do on FIFA.
Yeah.
You're controlling yourself." So I want that to happen. And what that does is, again, it relates to the mindset of why I'm so bothered about this, because if they can be resilient, they can, have them positives or what can we do about it, and then they can control themselves.
Yeah.
What are you creating there?
Building blocks,
you're building
discipline,
and
everything.
And not to blow smoke up my backside, but that's kind of what I feel like I built myself on, because I feel like I had that influence. So I did that. I took control of my life. I had a bit of positives and what can I do about it. Of course, we had negatives. They're always going to be there, and you will have setbacks, and they're going to sometimes get you emotionally a little bit more. But everything that I do in my life, or what I have done in my life, I feel like is what I'm preaching.
Yeah.
So I'm not preaching something what I feel like doesn't work, because, I'd like to say to myself that I'm really successful now on where I'm at, and honestly, I couldn't be more proud of where I'm at. And listen, there's loads of people who have helped me through that as well. But that feeling and that installing into me has kind of created my coaching philosophy, and it's just such a great thing that it works, Nice. And Aaron, like I say, going back to him, and not just Aaron now, the team, obviously I've got 6 lead staff now, and all of them are just so I watch it and I'm just like, yeah, that's passion. I'm not looking and going, that's just a coaching session. Yeah. I'm going, they care them, and that for me is yeah, mate, that's just number one. I actually said to people, I couldn't care less about your quals. Are you a good person? Yeah, that's more important for me than
what's
anything.
The point being here? We're not going to be
sure. How are you going to build a bond? Are you going to make an influence on a person, on a young player who doesn't know how to have a good mindset, and you haven't got one?
So from that perspective, I'm still thinking back now from the perspective of the parent at the side of the pitch as well. So obviously, the first thing you'll say to him is don't be as involved.
Don't be involved. Yeah.
From a distance, controlled environment, whatever, like that. But so imagine then the stereotype, because I've got a nephew, he plays, he's just starting under 16s, it's just starting to get a bit rough.
Cool.
And so I was speaking to my sister and a brother-in-law about it, and they're kind of they've said to him, this is up to you now at this point, because what they're watching, what some of the parents are like on the sidelines, brutal. Absolutely brutal to their own kids in front of everybody else.
It happens.
That kind of stuff. What would you say to that kid? How do you get? Because that's going to be true for a lot of kids that you're going to be training. They can't, you can't control that parent.
No.
You don't have any control over them. You can't, to any degree that's kind of worth anything. So how should, if there's a kid watching this and they're in that situation, they know that every time they go there, their dad's on the sideline, shouting at them, swearing at them, telling them off in front of all the crowds. What do you say to that kid? How do you get them to grow up and deal with that while still getting that discipline, still motivated, especially as well?
that's a tough one, obviously, because if it's their dad, it's a very tough one because it's going to go back home as well.
That's the
And
thing,
I think
yeah.
that's where the tough bit comes in. I think, obviously, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert in that, where, relationships with parents and...
I don't think anyone is, to be honest.
Well, exactly, yeah. I know, but, like, obviously, if it's, let's say, for example, though, that influences from other parents and so on, it's just, again, I always say, go back to it, it's just going back to being able to control yourself within that. Because at the end of the day as well, as much as that's bad, I mean, what do you think the pros are getting? When all the crowd, I mean, you look at social media on footballers. I mean, when Rashford was going through all his trouble, I mean, they're on you like, they're on your case all the time. You have one bad, I mean, Harry Maguire's another one, isn't he? He's been getting absolutely hammered all the time last few years. And, like, so, listen, I'm not advocating for it, of course, but you can't hide from it, unfortunately.
Well, I suppose
people online, isn't they?
If he's on, whatever, 500 grand a week,
it's a bit mad.
Slightly different. And if you're, let's say, 12 and you want to be on 500 a week in 10 years, but you're in that environment. So is it a case of doing what you can, not to get them out of the environment, but to give them not a safe space, if you know what I mean, but somewhere where that isn't happening, where you could at least control for that.
Yeah. I think then obviously if they came in for a session with us and so on, in a one-to-one environment when I'm on my own with them, you can really build a lot of a good bond with it, and also give them methods what you believe that they can leave with, and that's the thing. You're always going to have outside influence. It's like me. I've still got it. I can get myself into where I look at other people and what they're doing and think, oh, am I doing good enough?
Yeah, especially Instagram and stuff like that nowadays.
Yeah, that's just life, isn't it? So, like, it's building that resilience. It's building that, if it goes wrong, let's get it better. And that can be anyone. So even though, like I say, it's quite funny you touch on it. I'm not trying to dig you out here, by the way, but like when you speak about like Maguire, even on all that money, is it right? Well, no. It's probably not right. And I actually know people who know Harry a bit more personally, and it's hindered him a lot. It's hurted him quite a bit.
Made him think more complicated.
Like it has a massive mentality, not mentality effect, but like emotional effect on him. And you start doubting everything. Then you start thinking, are you meant to be a professional footballer? Probably not.
Like imposter syndrome.
Sure,
Have you ever seen that? Sure. Is that a common thing?
It's the most common. Like, absolutely most common. Yeah, it's like people are their own worst enemy. And that is literally it. But and funnily enough, and I've got another one to shout out here, which is Noel Flannelly. Yes, and Noel's going to be hopefully one of my guests on here because he's an unbelievable bloke, right? So I actually play competitive pool. And Noel's helped me out a lot in my mindset, and I've used a lot of his work within my own work as well.
Right.
And he's, like I say, his methods they're so simple, but they make you feel like you're just looking at it like, God, I'm so stupid. Like, why am I beating myself up like that? And there's one thing that he said, and it stuck with me. It was just like, why would you treat yourself the way you wouldn't want to be treated off other people?
Yeah.
If you think about that and you go, well, every time you have that sort of urge in yourself and you're shouting at yourself, would you like that off someone else? Well, the answer's no.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Exactly.
But
so
we all do it.
Yeah, but you all do it.
So
everyone does it.
The default state for some people.
It is.
Like
I did it myself. And I do it still now. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect, but that's what I want this to be about, is to talk about things like this. But imposter syndrome is you can be literally the worst of the worst enemy to yourself. And that is what I see most in probably like more pre-teens, like in sort of like 11s, 12s and so on. That's probably like the most it happens.
Really? So it's more common in the younger than your mid-teens. Like I'm thinking, like you're going through puberty, identity crisis. Everyone goes through that.
Oh, mate,
even before then.
I think it depends on the individual, isn't it? It's a lot to do with the way you're brought up as well. I think that definitely has a bit of an impact. Is like, do you know right from wrong? Do you know how to deal with challenges? What go ahead? And I think that's why, again, it's so important that, even touching on them 6-7-year-olds, is I'm trying to put the session in their hands very early because I want them to be in control of most things. If they're struggling, what do? Well, I come in and support. So it's not me just trying to take ownership of everything that you're doing and then trying to sort of that common term, wrap you in cotton wool sort of feeling. I don't want that. I want them
putting them on rails and saying that's the way you go.
Absolutely not. I'm going, right, you've got a challenge here. Let's solve it.
Yeah.
Let's be all right with that. Instead of it being a case of, oh, let me just tell you how to do it and I answer every question that you want. Because that doesn't teach you anything. It just ticks the box.
Especially kids.
Yeah, for kids. And then probably the same growing up. I don't think the methodology sort of like changes too much as they get older. I think probably, like you say there, I do agree when you're going through all them changes, of course you're going to have emotional changes and things like that. Yeah. But realistically, if you've got because I don't think the method is anything to do with just a reaction. It's more, you learn the method. Do you know what I mean? You learn the way of how to get out of them troubles. And going back to Noel, because he's a great guy, and again, everything he says is so true. But he actually says, like, the way you feel is a choice. And I totally agree. Because you can feel a certain way, but it's how long you want to stay in it as well.
Yeah.
You know, like you see them people who choose to let, you know, like I say, I don't want to sound like I'm being awful here, but like, let's say a really extreme circumstance in the family.
Yeah.
Hinder them
earlier.
for absolutely months, you know, and everything that they do is about that, and they'll never ever get out of that cycle.
Yeah.
And they'll choose that you sort of like choosing to let something be a problem for so long. But I've got problems, you've got problems, we've all got them. But like, how long do you want to stay in that problem for?
Or do you work with them, or do you want to go?
Do you want to live your life in a
dominated
good way?
by them?
For sure. And again, I keep going back, but like, even the base of my session is literally that. How long do you want to stay in that mistake?
Yeah,
it's gone.
I've heard someone describe, I think Sam Harris, like a neurologist, neuroscientist, and he's talking about how, like, in those situations, it's like the equivalent of walking around with like a clenched fist, but you don't realise your fist's clenched, and someone points out, she goes, "You do know your fist is clenched," and then you release it, and then suddenly all that stress just disappears. Is like
that.
Like, so there you go. You can quote me on your next podcast. That'll work well. Some guy told me this amazing thing. But I stole it from someone else, so I can't take credit for that.
No, you're so right though, and that's what I mean. It's like you can see it in players where they're playing with that tension, playing with anger. And do you know what? I actually like a little bit of it. I like a bit of drive. Because,
a bit of resistance.
Yeah, when I was playing when I was young, I was a little bit gritty and probably I didn't deal with it in the right way. But I think over time, you sort of like, you can manage that and you can put it in when it needs it. You can take it out when you need to, and especially when it's a negative. If you're playing with that clenched fist, like you say, you're gonna react. You're gonna get a red card or something like that. Exactly. You know, it's obvious. It's like, or you're just gonna keep making mistakes because you can't physically let your body like adapt to the challenge.
You've got blinders on essentially, and you're just going in whatever is in that tunnel vision there.
Yeah,
that's what you're reacting to, and then there's no context
for sure.
Or anything
you're just
like
seeing
that.
red, and there's no. That's what I mean. There's no outside influence then. What can help that? So that's what I keep saying about going back to the control of the session. Is it's in the player's hands, and as early as I can is put that in there with the support and with the emotional understanding to it, of course, and you know, like I say, the methods of being resilient and how to actually do it. And again, keep touching on it, but this is why I want this to be a thing, because I think talking to people, especially players who've been in that, again, Jack's one of my guests as well, you know, from a 15-year-old kid since meeting him to where he's at now, his mentality is brilliant. Yeah. And it's still the same. And he's probably learnt more as he's gone on. And I'd love for him to share all that. So
exactly. Well, imagine being that 15-year-old kid sat there watching Jack say, so this is how I got into this part. These are the challenges I faced. These are how I overcame them. This is how I got into an academy. This is how I got into the league. Like, this is what I went through. Here's the bit that no one will tell, the ugly bits that no one will tell you about. Because that's the bit that people can imagine, like you were saying earlier, like, you know, the Instagram version of everyone's life, where everything's polished and everything's perfect. Oh, you just went training, you were good, you got into the academy, you were. It's like, no, that's 10%.
Nothing.
It's like the iceberg. It's like most of it's all underneath, which is all the days that I got to get up early and with the discipline and stuff like that. So, like,
the days you don't see what shape you, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what I was.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like all them darker days are the ones what create a good person. And you know, if you're gonna, and I actually think now it sounds a bit bizarre thing, but I think people need to go through a bit of shit. You know, a bit of shit to go through, and then go, right, this is what's gonna. It's there to challenge me. And I actually say that now. I actually have a bit of a, I suppose, like a bit of a. Not a religious take on it, but like I actually
spiritual
take.
Yeah,
spiritual is a better word. But like it's more of a like now I think things are just thrown at you on purpose.
Yeah.
I actually think it's just part of life. And so when it comes at you, it's like, right, this is my time. It's challenging me.
It's not an oh no, it's been thrown at me. It's
for sure.
Here's another one. Let me take this one.
Like the car. You know, I brought my car the other week. You know, I was like, God's sake, got to find £1,000 what I don't really want to spend. But it just is what it is. Like I'm not looking at it now and going, oh my God, where am I going to be? You know, like, if it puts me under a bit of financial pressure, it is what it is. But like, you'll find a way out of it if you really want to find a way out. And that's why everything that I'm going on about, mate, is just literally that. And same with me, mate. Same with how I talk to my parents. Is like when they're going through their own trouble, you know, or my family members, my sisters, or whatever, and they're going through their own little thing. It's like just try and find, you know, that little bit in you what's going to pick you up, and you're going, right, that's my vision. That's where I want to be, as opposed to letting that determine who you are. Yeah. Stop letting it like make you feel that way, because you can control it. As I said about Noel, you know, he makes me feel silly when I'm missing balls all the time.
That's bad, because there's another one that I've heard of as well. It's about the time that you're spending in your day. What are you actually doing? What do we all do every day? Obviously, we sleep. Everybody has breakfast. Everybody comes home from work and sits down and does something, or you have dinner together and things. They make up most of your entire life, not the main activities that you're doing. That's the same thing you do every single day.
Yeah.
So what are you doing in those days? Are you sitting down for breakfast alone, just in a dark room with a bowl of cereal? Or are you sat with your family or someone you live with, if possible? And how does that kind of blend into mindset? Because if every single day you're having a miserable breakfast, you're having a miserable commute to work, you're having a miserable sleep because you've got a miserable mattress, you're obviously going to be miserable. So it's about taking that discipline as well, I suppose. And you tell me if you agree with this, is like of going, okay, I'm now going to change how I do my breakfast. I'm going to change how I do these things. So I'm setting myself up mindset wise for the difficult part of the day, which is my training, or for the work that I've got, my shift that I've got to put in. So like, what kind of balances are there then in like, did you ever do anything in your training as well? It's like a kind of secondary question, of like, how are people setting up the days? How are people actually setting up their lives to plan around the things they want to do versus just kind of being a passive taker of whatever's coming at you?
Yeah, obviously, like you bang on. Like, if your life is obviously set and it's in the right way, you know, don't get me wrong, I've probably not been, you know, the best advocate for that myself, and I feel like that's where I see myself go downhill a little bit. You know, when I don't have them things in place. You know, I was quite into me running at one point. I've kind of come off it a little bit now. Don't get me wrong, you know, businesses, we've got loads of good ideas coming up.
And stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exciting things that I'm trying to produce at the minute, which obviously naturally you come away. But you shouldn't really say that, because your health should come first, you know, don't get me wrong. And at the same time, yes, discipline is what I'm preaching, and of course you want that yourself. And for me, I feel like I've learned discipline within just making sure that my energy goes into what I really want to do as well. So it's the same thing anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, when you're a footballer, then you've got to be fit. I mean, I'm not as physically fit as I were when I was playing, but like as a coach, I'm still I'm still keeping relatively fit. But yeah, obviously for them, their discipline's different. For me, it was more just like I'm trying to get that life balance as well, because I feel like the last few years have just been absolutely mental. Like, just it's grown so fast. I mean, I'm sitting here and I've only been going, 3.5 years now, and I've been in my actual indoor venue for a year. It's like I'm not even like touching the surface. I feel like where I want to be yet. So everything at the minute is my energy in there. But yeah, so in regards to like sort of discipline for that, I just want to stay driven within that. You know, I want to keep trying to find different ways in which I can improve the RH private coaching. I want to make it better. I want to hopefully one day build a bigger venue. And try and go for that. I'll look after my staff. That's a big thing about probably. Again, it does touch on discipline, because if something irritates me or something happens, I don't react to that like that.
Yeah.
I like talk to them with respect, and I think that creates a really good, environment within me coaches, because they respect me back in the same way. I'm not their gaffer, like talking down to them. I don't want that.
Yeah, I get you.
And
a friend. As
we're mates, but then when we're doing the work, we do it properly.
Drop it to hierarchy.
And they know that, and they know the difference in standard as soon as the whistle goes, or whatever you want to say. As soon as it starts, that's it. And so. Yeah, my discipline comes from that, is to keep my company, if you like the standards super high. Every session they get the same amount of passion from. I review and reflect an hell of a lot within my sessions. So if I have a session where when I go home I don't feel like it was the best, I'll reflect on it all the time. I do a lot more mental reflection now. I think it's a lot better.
Do you have like a system that you use, like SMART or something like that? Something that they teach in PE at school, but actually you use it in your life?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I must say, I'm a lot more. So, like, even now, like, I know it might sound a bit like the wrong way of going about it if coaches are watching this, but like, I don't really plan sessions anymore. I kind of go into it with the idea of like, who have I got and what am I going to do about it?
Right.
So for me, it's like, when I've got a new player or someone who I've had before, I'll create a session plan based on what I know of them.
Right.
And so, for example,
individually on the fly, basically.
Listen, I'll have a bit of a rough idea. I'll have the drill, let's say, is such. But sometimes I can go and have a drill and it just not even be a thing.
But you've already put that effort in for years and you train. That's why you're in this position to be able to wing it. Well, not wing it, but like go with the flow.
And that's what it is. It's not really. Like I say, it sounds like it's winging it, but it's more just because I want the session to be authentic. I want it to flow in the right way, as opposed to it being just purely a planned, by the letter execution, because that's not me working with that player. I feel like it's me just creating a session which is just like, completely, we've written it down to the letter. It has to be that way, and then there's no real
flexibility in it.
Yeah. Because you like doing progressions or regressions based on that, and you're going, okay, well, this player needs that, but I've got to stick to this. It doesn't make sense to me.
That makes me think immediately when you say that. Then, because like time's against us, so we'll kind of finish on this topic. But perfectionism. So how does that fit in? Because part of the problem I think a lot of people have with these things is that they're trying to they want to do it 100% perfectly. And there's lots of different, and that obviously means that you're never going to do it all, because you're never going to get it to 100% perfect. So even if you've got the motivation, even if you've got the discipline, it's again what we were saying before, you're your own worst enemy, your own critic.
Yeah, totally.
So you're stopping there. So how do you balance that difference between perfectionism and like motivation? Some people have like an 80% rule I've heard of before, which is like...
I've got one, is just say perfect doesn't exist. It doesn't. It's not a thing. Right. Like, you can't ever be perfect. There's not one human being on the planet what's perfect. There's not one footballer what's perfect. There's not one coach. You're going to make mistakes. So it's accepting that. And I keep going back to it. Like I say, there is acceptance and accepting things are going to come at you. Stop trying to search for perfect, because it's not there.
You think it's like the negative side of competition then?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. It's always I think that's probably one of the worst things, because as soon as you start trying to seek perfectionism, you just get lost. You get so lost in just that search for it, because nothing you then find, you don't actually appreciate anything.
That's so true.
You know what I mean? Like, your journey is just like, I'm always trying to find that next thing, and it's like you just wear yourself out.
Is that what you think's kind of motivating behind, because it was the stereotypical negative parent on the side?
Yep.
Is in their head they're trying to perfect their kid.
Yep.
On that pitch at home.
But do they even know what's perfect?
But are they perfect? Like,
no, not at all.
Yeah, all of it. Obviously not, because they're shouting at the kid on a football pitch.
Exactly.
So the irony.
Even if that kid got to a club, they would still do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's how it is. I think like the perfectionism word is just a farce. It just doesn't exist, because you should be just searching for getting better and being able to actually see. So I just have, how I talk to my kids and even people, is just have a step-by-step process. So go up half a step, or go up one step and then a step again, and stop trying to go from A to B. You're trying to jump the flight of stairs kind of thing. And that's kind of where I'm always at. It's like, why are we looking so high when we're not even there yet?
And it's self-fulfilling, because then you're not going to do it, obviously. Yeah. So you're going to be demotivated. So you're not going to have the discipline. And
so
then
actually what happens is you go like that, you take one up and you take two down.
Yeah.
And so you actually end up going down. And it's just a bit, and I actually do that with my young kids, is I draw that sort of step process and go, right, well, if we take one step up and then you're so bothered about up there, but then you're taking 2 or 3 down because you're beating yourself up. And then you lose that first step.
Yeah, so what's the point?
It's just like, what's the point? But you're trying to search for something what you've got to, it's a process. And that, you say, then you can start actually like appreciating them little wins. It's the little wins what make you. I mean, I look at myself, could I have gone 3 years ago and jumped to where I'm at now? Absolutely not.
No.
What had to happen? I had to go through them little stages of just a little bit of development. Yeah, you get knocked back, but you're not trying to go.
Well, yeah, I think it's appreciating that it's part of the entire process. I mean, it was my former Spanish teacher when I was at school taught me something like, just like what you're saying now. And he was saying, like, progress isn't just up like that in a line.
No.
It's this.
Yep.
And it's constantly going slightly up with every single loop. But if you look at that and map it out, half of it is going backwards and down.
Yep.
And then you go slightly higher than you were the last time. And then you're backwards and down and slightly higher than last time. And you're always going up. If you step back and look at that over 20, 30 years, you're going to see a linear line and go, oh, it must have been easy for you. But when you zoom in on that line and you see it's just this squiggle of going ups and downs, ups and downs. And that's kind of like analogous what we're saying here. It goes back to the perfectionism, it goes back to the discipline, the mindset. And I think it's pretty amazing though to see like the way that it applies, like you were saying, from like a 12-year-old to a 50-year-old to someone who's just come out of school ready to start football, 18, 17 years old. It's almost a universal thing. Yeah,
for sure. And that's what I mean. Like I say, I keep going back to it. You just don't look at it as a thing. If you take it out of your dictionary and you don't look at perfectionism, you don't try and search for that. And like you say there, the way that you've looped it around is, I totally agree. You're going to get setbacks. You're gonna find things what will happen, and you don't even know why it's happened.
Yeah.
But then you've just got to be able to, like say, have that resilience to try and find that, and within yourself to go, okay, well, this is the thing what we've got to deal with, and let's go and deal with it. And that is, I feel like, in a human being, the hardest thing for people to do. Yeah. They can't understand why things happen, and
try to control it.
Yeah, but there's no need to try and find that out. It's just get a reaction to it. Like this, you might walk out of here now and someone goes and trips you up. Can you do anything? Did you know that was going to happen? No.
Do I punch you in the face because they done it?
Why did it happen though? You don't actually know. They might just be having a bad day and took it out on you. But that's what happens in life. Things get thrown at you. What you don't really know why. You're probably going to go to a session one day and make more mistakes, and you don't know why.
Yeah.
But just don't try and have that.
Comfortable with that.
You're okay with that first, and then when you've calmed down and you're relaxed. But if you can do it on the spot, a lot of the time you can actually find something to go, well, I can pick myself up. I know this feeling. and I know how to work off it.
I remember this. And I
Yeah,
remember what I did last time.
exactly.
'Cause Ryan taught me in my football training
like to think
session
so.
at RH Private Coaching.
Yeah, and that's where I think people struggle, is because they have something hit them, obviously normally negative, because what happens when you positively get hit by something? You feel great.
Yeah.
You react well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny
Why
that,
can't
isn't
we
it?
react well when something bad happens?
Yeah.
People don't have that. It's
That's
like,
so
why?
true.
Oh, it's negative, so I must react in the worst way. Well, that's where I'm trying to change the game. I feel like a little bit in my methodology is like, you can react to it in a better way, and it's good that it happens, because it makes you feel more human. You don't want to be robotic, because once something, then maybe in a couple of years down the line, you've never been told you've done no wrong. How do they take it?
How do you deal with
can't
that?
take it. It's horrible for them, and that's why I want to build that. That's a massive part of what I'm about and what I want to explore here. So,
well, that's brilliant. Well, I think for the to close us off, then I've got one last question for you. Then,
yep.
So in the world of football, I'm going to kind of slightly steal this question format from another podcast that I watch online, but it's a great way of doing it.
Okay.
So of all the things that are happening in football and coaching and what like that, what is the one thing that's happening that most people aren't talking about?
Oh, most people aren't talking about.
Yeah. Specific to coaching, specific to football in general, is there something that's really important that you think about a lot that no one else is talking about?
Actually, funnily enough, it's this mentality within pros.
And that's probably why you started
within the academy system as well. Like the way that I feel like these young kids are approached, they're just looked at like a number. And a lot of the time they don't get that sort of respect, I suppose, that what I like to say I preach a lot, and that's what I say about my sessions. It's more of you're not just a player to us, you're part of what
the
we're
group.
about, and that straight away, sometimes it's like completely new for some players, and they're quite restrained at first, and like, I don't want, I don't want to get too close to you and all that. They'd be more distant, they're a bit more scared of it, but that's a massive part, and buying into someone emotionally and getting to know that person. As soon as you know that, you can actually build more. Because there's a big stigma with football, obviously, that coaches and players are just spoke to like rubbish, aren't they? Coaches just screaming down at them and do that. It's all about intensity, but do they actually know the person? Are they just getting a version of them which is a bit masked? When they're playing football, are they in that certain way? So, going back to your question, I think it's a great one. But I think definitely find out a little bit more about the player when you're a coach, and get to know them on a personal level. Find out about what their life's like you say, and build that bond before you've even tried to develop on a pitch, because you're not going to get good development without really appreciating that person and them doing it back.
All right.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we close off, then tell everyone where they can find you, where they can get your content, how can they book a session, what if they're one of those kids that wants to get involved, where can they go?
Cool. So obviously my own coaching company is RH Private Coaching. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, or you can message me on WhatsApp on 07575 208282.
Well remembered.
Good at that, aren't I?
Yeah. Had some practice before that.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff. Great talking to you. Thank you.
It's been a good one. Appreciate it. That was fun, that.